So tomorrow is our second annual pickle party. Going to have a bunch of people in the backyard showing them how to make fermented dill pickles and sauerkraut. And I am going to try something new this year. I think I tried it last year, but I didn't take good notes on it. Slightly different way to prepare the cabbage for sauerkraut that requires you do it 24 hours in advance. So I don't feel good recommending this to anyone tomorrow unless I've done it, which means I got to do this today. So I got a massive cabbage here at the local farmers market, grown locally, $1.50 for that bad boy. I'm just going to set my scale. Oh, the top of my scale is really loose here. What happened there now? I detect two boys. Let's see, one of the nuts is missing from my scale, and everything else is all loose. I detect the mischief of two boys. Oh well, I shouldn't have it. I should put it away when I'm done with it. It's my own damn fault. Okay, that's going to be good enough for the moment. So this scale, you can set it. You can readjust the 0 point. So I set it for 0. I'm going to weigh that bad boy. Let's see. Holy frig. That is exactly 10.5 pound cabbage. Wow. So I'm also going to weigh it. I'm going to put it into the bucket. So here's my bucket. I'm going to weigh the bucket, or I'm going to zero the scale out for the weight of the bucket for what I'm going to do next. So I put the bucket on there and reset it for 0, because I'm going to cut the cabbage up, put it in the bucket, and then weigh the cabbage after it's cut to see how much I have, because that determines how much salt you use. I'll have to look it up. I'm pretty sure it's a 1/4 cup of pickling salt per every 5 pounds. Let's see, so there it is. Reset to 0 for the weight of, no, not quite. Reset to 0 for the weight of the bucket. I don't need this for a little while yet. I'm just going to put the bucket down here, and I'm going to cut up my cabbage. And yes, I'm using my stove top because I've got my dehydrator going on my good countertop, and everything else is in use at the moment, so I'm using my stove top. Actually, my sink is not. My sink would be a better place, but it's kind of sloped and not the best place for the scale. Anyway, I suppose I could do the cutting over there. Might even be a better place than here. So just take off a few of the outer leaves. We're already to a point where, well, maybe take that one off. No, that looks good. I think we're good. So I just took off a few of the outer leaves. I'll put those in the composter. Now, you want to try to cut the core out of your cabbage. There's a number of different ways you can do that. Typically, I try to cut around with a good sharp knife. Cut around on an angle, so I'm angling in. You can't, there you can see that way. You can see that way how I'm angling in. And I go around the whole thing, around the whole core like that. Be careful, it's really easy to chop off a finger with a good sharp knife like this. So, let's see how we do. Oh boy. Knock on wood on that chopping off a finger comment. I should have that blade pointing in the opposite direction for the way I'm doing this, in fact. So, the core of the cabbage is like a solid mass that you could grate it up for coleslaw or something, I suppose. Not terribly useful for sauerkraut. Alright, so I think I have it. So there is a good chunk of the core. I've got a little bit left along here. I can deal with that as I get to it. I'll just try to cut out this little section of core here because it's fairly big. I think, as I recall, the core is quite bitter too, so maybe you don't want to use it for anything. Let me try it. Yeah. No, actually that's not bad. There's another piece of core there. Just chop it away. You can tell the core because it's not like a leafy part. You can see the leafy parts, and then there's the core, which is like a solid mass. There, I've gotten pretty much all of the core out. I might use my bigger knife too. This is a better handling knife for smaller jobs. It's only about, what's that, about 6-inch blade. This is a massive thing. Let me see, can you see what I'm doing over there? Yes, you can see what I'm doing over there. So, this will go right through. If you had a shorter knife, you could do it this way, go down to the, go down through the center, and then cut it down like this. If you didn't have a great big knife like this, and then turn it around and finish it on the other side. Now I better get rid of this stuff that I'm not using so I don't get my pieces of cabbage mixed up. I'll take this and just stick it here for now. More clutter for that piece of counter until I get to it, which will be today. So we got lots of cabbage here. Again, my bucket's right down there. So how am I going to do this? Now this leaf came off, it's still good, I'm going to use it. I'm just going to, so that's 1/4 of a cabbage. I think if it were a smaller cabbage I could go with 1/4. This thing is massive, as previously mentioned, so I'm going to go down to 1/8. And then work with my 1/8 of the cabbage. And basically you just want to julienne it as best you can. I used to put this through my KitchenAid food processor, the attachment for the big mixer. I actually busted the damn thing that way. Cabbage is pretty tough stuff. So these days, I've since realized it's actually pretty easy just to julienne a cabbage. And that's all, look. That's all you need. That's fine, even longer than that, but just make it reasonably thin. There you go. Now I got my thumb in there in a kind of a precarious position, as you can see. Let's hope I do not, let's hope I get through this experience with all digits still attached. I should have this around this way so that that handle hole is not hanging over the edge. Scoot that into the bucket. And we'll start her down this side too. Nice and thin, that's all. Nice and thin. So I'll just do this 1/8 for you, show you how that goes, and then I'll turn the camera off and I'll do the rest of the cabbage and we'll tune you back in again. You only really need to see how one of the 8s is handled, because the other 7 will be handled in exactly the same manner. It gets a little bit more creative as you get to the end. Right now it looks like it's probably easiest for me to cut it this way, and I'm still going to get a good julienne off of that, so you don't always have to cut it in the same direction. You can switch it around a little bit. Just make sure you're getting a reasonably good julienne off of a lot of it. Here, look at this. That's really ideal for me, the size I want, but it depends on what size you want for your chunks of kraut. Last year we had some people doing crazy fine julienne because that's what they wanted. Had another guy that was just doing these massive chunks because that's what he wanted. Doesn't really matter. It's your sauerkraut, and you can do it the way you want.